In this video, we're going to talk about the 5 big tips to stop feeding in Halo Infinite and absolutely dominate your games by dying less and getting more and more kills. But the GameLeap website is the best way to quickly climb the ranks all the way to ONYX and beyond with in-depth pro breakdowns, map guides, and so much more. Do yourself a favor and go check it out right now down below. So after taking quite a big of a hiatus from Halo Infinite Ranked, I decided to jump back in and play on my trusty mouse and keyboard. And I jumped in and I started playing some games, and I played 7 games. I won 6 of them. However, most of those games that I won, I got absolutely carried. I sucked fucking ass. I was so bad. And these games, by the way, were between Diamond 5 and I believe about 1600 ONYX. In that spectrum was where the people I was playing against were in. Now, I definitely played a lot better towards the end of my play session, but I did want to talk about some of the big things that I noticed I was doing completely wrong when I first started playing. And what do I need to think about if I want to play to a much higher level? Because in my opinion, my skill level was not ONYX tier when I played in my placement games. And I know if I keep winning, I'm especially going to go up against better and better players that are going to just fucking roll me even harder. So let's actually talk about the 5 big ways to stop feeding. Now, the first one, and this was the biggest one, I was super overconfident in my mechanical skill. Like, I thought I could just, take a little break, come back, play some SWAT, and then jump into ranked, and I would be perfectly fine. Absolutely freaking not. Maybe it's because I play other shooters like Valorant and Apex that have different sensitivities, different weapons. Some of them are projectiles, some of them are instant time to kill. Whatever the case may be, my mechanical skill was all over the place. I was playing like I could hit all of my shots, but in reality, I was whiffing way too many of them. And I think that it's important to, 1, just warm up, which is something I should have done a lot more. I should have amply warmed up before I jumped in. And 2, it's important to make sure that your confidence level is in check with your mechanical skill. I mean, in reality, especially as you climb, eventually you're going to run into players where you can't just out-mechanic every single person, no matter how good you are. And especially because there was a big disconnect between my mechanical skill currently and my confidence level, I was putting myself in situations where I was not hitting the shots that I needed to hit to pull off the plays that I was trying to make. And it was causing me to feed over and over and over again, especially those first like 2 to 3 games. I was hard inting those games, and we actually ended up still winning 2 of those. But if I played better, we probably would have won all of them by a landslide. Now, the next big mistake I actually ran into, some of you are gonna have this problem more than others, but I was aiming for the head far too much. And this was probably one of the reasons why I was whiffing so damn hard. I think it comes from all of my play with like Apex Wingman and freaking Valorant. I was just aiming for the head. I was really aiming for the head, even when people had full shields. Even when I was trying to do, 2 bursts with the BR plus a melee because that kills, I was still aiming for the head with the first bullets. And it was very hard to hit people that were running at me, sliding at me, moving when I wasn't aiming center mass when they had full shields. And I knew that I wasn't supposed to aim head level, but it was very hard for me to break that habit because I was just so ingrained to always aim head level. But there's no headshot multiplier in Halo, and it's very important to make sure that you consistently hit your shots until the shields are low or broken. And that was something I was not doing, and it was causing me to not deal as much damage as I should, especially in some of these close range engagements. Now, the next mistake that I was doing, and I don't really know exactly why, but I was being very reliant on my teammates. I was really trying to work with them. I was expecting them to cover for me. When I did some damage and then tucked into a corner, I was expecting them to hold for me. And a lot of that didn't happen. I got pushed a lot when maybe my teammates could have saved me. I was playing really trying to work with my teammates or play off them. Oftentimes my ally would back off and I would go in, and then my ally would, instead of healing up and following me into battle, would go on a fucking wild flank or whatever the case may be. I do remember when I was grinding Halo more seriously before, I would get to the point where I would use teammates that I deemed were good and reliable, and we would try to work together. But in general, I would really try to get a lot of solo impact by myself, because especially when you're playing by yourself, it's very hard to coordinate with your teammates or just get them to do what you want them to do consistently or rely on them at all. And I do think that maybe I was just trying to coordinate with them too much or rely on them too much because I was not confident in my own playmaking ability. So I thought maybe I could rely on them a little bit too much. And I think that it got me killed a lot, and I think that I was just setting myself up for failure. Now, the next thing that I did a lot for whatever reason is I would often commit to melee shield trades way too often, and I wasn't consistent enough at following up on the headshot. I think that in general, melee trading and then backing up and trying to get the headshot relies on a fair bit of RNG. I mean, sure, it's skill as well, but if both players are skilled, it can be a little bit too random of an engagement than necessary. If you use proper spacing, proper gunplay, you can make it so you trade damage at a more effective rate. And you don't need to, rely on, the RNG. Both of y'all melee, both of y'all back up, both of y'all try to shoot each other's head. Now, if you're forced into that, sure, but I was forcing those engagements often. I was doing it over and over and over again when I never really needed to, and sometimes I was even slightly ahead. I would commit to a melee that didn't quite do enough damage to kill, and then we would be in these 50-50 freaking headshot battles from close range, and I would keep losing them because, like I said, my mechanical skill was suffering in this play session back in Halo Infinite. But I think sometimes, especially when you have that initial advantage, it's important to think about the ways in which you can lose it or the enemy can come back from that disadvantage. Oftentimes, if an enemy gets desperate, they'll try to throw a grenade instead of actually trying to finish you off. And if they do that, but completely whiff the grenade, you're going to be able to kill them without taking as much damage because they didn't commit to spraying you, even if they would have lost. And the other way that they try to throw a Hail Mary in there is by just running at you and meleeing you. And if you properly distance, you see it coming, you can prevent these melee shield trades from happening. And sometimes you even, maybe you got the enemy to 1 HP and they managed to get a melee on you right as they died, and then their buddy cleaned you off, where if you would have just distanced yourself properly, you could have still killed them, they wouldn't have got the melee off, and you wouldn't have died to the secondary person. Now, the last big mistake that caused me to feed and caused just, a lot of bad situations in my games is just me not playing the objective enough. I'm going to be honest here. I jumped back into Halo and I just wanted to frag. So I just ran around and I fragged, or I tried to. And I found this phenomenon, and I remembered it before, where people just didn't want to play the objective at all. But there was a lot of situations where it was very easy for me to play the objective, get free points, free value, and instead of making the smart tactical decision, I was being a little fast and reckless and not actually playing the objective enough, which is not something I should be doing at all. And really, I get a lot of satisfaction around playing the objective well, whether that's properly juggling the flag and routing correctly, playing the oddball in a way that is very tricky as far as flushing you out with grenades, getting value out of your faster melee, and even resetting appropriately at the right time, being ready to fight afterwards. There's a lot of ways to show off your skill even while playing the objective, but instead of doing that and just guaranteeing a lot of these easy wins with more points, I was just running around and fragging like a psychopath, and it was definitely not what I should have been doing if I wanted to actually consistently win. But I am going to learn from these mistakes, feed less, and get back to the grind. But definitely let me know if you have any questions, and what big things have you noticed yourself doing in your games that have been holding you back. I really want to know about it down below. And while you're there, the GameLeap website is the best place to climb, where we have in-depth breakdowns over pro players, because we can learn from the best of the best, analyzing their gameplay, seeing exactly what they do right and wrong, and how we can incorporate it into our games. So do yourself a favor and go check it out right now down below.